Hi, I'm Tracy Bevington. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and the owner and founder of a group psychotherapy practice called Pacific Marriage and Family Therapy Network. We're a group practice with 15 clinicians, and we've got offices located in Sherman Oaks, Manhattan Beach, and Santa Monica. For today's Facebook Live, I'd like to discuss parenting teenage girls. It's called Help! I'm Parenting a Teenage Girl. Before we get started, I'd like to ask that if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section. If you're joining us for the first time, I'd appreciate it if you would let us know and let us know where you're joining from. Also, if you'd like to join our newsletter or be in contact with us, you'll see links at the top of the page. Lastly, please check your volume. Make sure your volume's turned up, your sound's turned on, or your sound's turned up. All right, so how do you parent a teenage girl? Funny enough, parenting a teenage girl can be very different than parenting a teenage boy. There's a lot of overlap, but the thing to remember about girls is we women, girls, have very relational brains. So our biology is set up to be relational, which means that we think about things a little bit differently than boys or males think. So it's really not easy being a teenage girl these days. And it's definitely not easy parenting one. Today's teenage girls are bombarded with a whole range of different stressors, influencers that maybe you and I didn't have when we were growing up. So what does it mean? It means that being a teenage girl, you have hormones, right? Hormones are changing your body. Hormones are changing your brain. There's a lot of growth during teenage years, during adolescence. So there's a lot going on neurologically and physiologically. I read somewhere once that they've done brain scans on teenage brain and psychotic brain, and funny enough, they're pretty similar. So when your kids or your girls are acting kind of strangely, meaning they're impulsive, they're not going to make really great decisions, they sometimes are not congruent or don't make sense. It's because there's a lot going on in their brain. And the prefrontal cortex, which is this front part, this is where we are reasonable and rational. It doesn't fully develop for kids until girls around 18, 19. Boys, it's like 22, 23. So the part of their brain that really thinks and is analytical is underdeveloped. So you put that in with all of the growth and the activity and the hormones, and then you layer in all of these outside influences. So it's no longer just you as a parent influencing how your child is going to be brought up or what kind of adult that child is going to be. You have TV, movies, commercials, friendships, school, neighbors, like any interaction. Living in a city like Los Angeles, we're being inundated with a ton of influence on how we are as a person and who we want to be. And then, oh my gosh, social media. Social media is amazing. And it's also just awful, especially for a lot of teenage girls. Social media, because our brains, our female brain is very relational, social media can get out of control pretty quickly. And it's very stressful. So again, being a teenage girl, not easy. Parenting one, definitely not easy. So what can happen though? If we just don't pay attention, if we're not helping our daughters to develop coping skills, if we're not helping our daughters to figure out how to manage through this growth period where things are kind of out of whack and maybe a little out of control, well, statistics say that there's a very high risk of eating disorder, substance abuse, and that could be marijuana too. Um, self-harm. Self-harm is on the rise. Not necessarily being suicidal, although that is lumped in there, but cutting. And then there's just a high risk of anxiety and depression. So again, it's like, whoa, our teenage girls, our daughters are going through a lot. So if we don't help them, we know what the risks are. So how do we help them? Well, part of it is remembering when you were a teenager. Whether you're a mom or a dad, remember when you were a teenager. What was the one thing that you wanted most of all, other than like $1 million and a car and the freedom to do anything you want? Well, I hear when I'm working with teenage clients, I don't know, 500 times a day, I'm exaggerating. No one understands me. No one gets me. My parents don't understand. They just don't get it. So the best thing you could do to parent your teenage girl is to try to understand them. And understand them doesn't mean try to change them. It means try to just find out what they're about. What are they thinking? How do they feel? Maybe they don't understand what all these hormones are doing. Maybe they don't understand about how to set boundaries. Maybe they don't, but you're never going to know for real unless you talk to them. So get to understand your kids. Teenage girls in particular, because of the relational brain, are really going to appreciate this. Now, when you're listening and you're trying to understand their perspective, it's important to remember to talk with them and not at them. So what does that mean? It means lecturing is usually not very effective. They have to sit through all of that at school all day, being told what to do, being told to do this now. You need to go here then. You need to. They don't want to come home and be lectured anymore. So lecturing is not so good. It's really a good idea to, avoid lecturing by asking open-ended questions. If you're asking yes or no questions, you're going to get so what'd you do at school? No, how was school today? And they're going to say, fine. It's like, that's a tough one. Or, did you have a good day at school? Yeah. And then it all just stops. So thinking about asking questions that are going to lead to conversation. So try to ask the open-ended questions like, you could say, how was your day today? It was fine. Oh, what did you like best? What did you notice went really well? What did you not like so much? How was it in your math class today? I know you don't like that teacher. What was it like? Oh, what do you want to do about that thing? How can I help you? Do you see how it's more conversational than just, yeah, everything's fine, I'm good. The other thing to try to get away from lecturing is to practice, and it's hard, it takes practice. Reflective listening. So reflective listening is a skill where you are making sure that the other person understands you and that you understand them. So one of the key things is to use an I statement. So you would say something like, I'm worried about you. What's going on? Instead of, what's wrong with you? So we try to take the you out as much as we can and make the statement about me, like what's my experience? And then try to talk about that in relation to your daughter. So let's say you say something like, I feel scared when I notice you shutting me out. And then they say back to you, you don't have to worry. And then sometimes people think like, well, yes, I do. I'm your mother. I worry about you. Do you see how there's a lot of you in there? Or you can say, well, I have no choice. I'm your mom and I worry. And when I notice you're shutting down, I worry even more. So can you help me not worry so much? And then I can leave you alone. Usually you add that in there, and I will leave you alone. They're like, oh, yes. How can I get my mom or dad to leave me alone? But having conversation, like good conversation, is really going to help you to understand when you need to step in and when you can kind of leave them alone a little bit. But if you're just getting yes or no answers or fine, yeah, okay, that's not a conversation. So reflective listening also includes saying something and then literally repeating it back to the other person. So if I'm talking to my daughter and I say, she says to me, well, I really don't like my math teacher. She's just really dumb. She doesn't know what she's doing. She doesn't know how to teach. I'm lost all the time. Nobody's doing good in the class. Nobody likes her. If I'm going to reflect back, I'm going to say, oh, wow, sounds like this, you really don't like this teacher. And seems like she doesn't really know what she's doing. Ugh, like, that's terrible. Do you see how you just pretty much summarized and said back to the person what they said to you? But as the receiver of that, your daughter is going to feel like, yeah, okay, mom's listening to me. Okay. And then the conversation keeps going. Once you stop listening and turn on the lecture button, your kids, you could probably see it in their eyes. It just gets kind of like glazed over, kind of just looking around, or they're looking at the floor, droopy, not engaged. They're definitely not listening to you. And you could scream and holler and get as loud as you want to get, and it's not going to change anything. They're not going to listen to you. But if you show that you're listening to them, they're going to start listening to you. Another thing that can help to maintain or improve the relationship you have with your daughter is to just try to catch her doing something good. Oftentimes as parents, we're really quick to find something that's wrong. Oh, you didn't do your homework. Oh, the dishes. Oh, your bedroom. It's really not practiced. It's not usual for parents to say, whoa, thanks for picking up your room. Oh, thanks for turning off the light in the bathroom. Oh, thank you for, I don't know, taking out the trash. Thank you for finishing your homework without giving me a hard time. Try hard to catch your teenage girl doing something good. This is where like flattery gets you everywhere. You can also mention this to your husbands. If they can give you a little more catching you doing something good, or you can give that, do that in reverse, husbands and wives, it really does make a difference. One other key point is to remember you always want to be firm, not harsh, or not aggressive, but, oh my gosh, not aggressive, but firm. I can't remember the other word. So try not to be harsh. Don't be mean. If you're going to have a conversation, okay, let me back up. If you're going to just be upset and yell at them, great, do that. But if you're trying to have a conversation, you cannot be mad. So do your best to try to breathe, calm your own nervous system, get what you want to say in your head so that you can articulate it clearly and in an appropriate way. discipline with love, not anger. And sometimes it's tough love, but anger's not going to get you anywhere. Again, think about when you were a kid and your parent may have had an angry moment, or maybe several angry moments. Were you like, wow, I really want to do better because I'm inspired? Or were you probably super pissed or really scared? Again, if you want your teenage daughter to be sad, scared, or angry, be harsh, lecture all the time, don't listen. That's exactly what you're going to get. So when we're talking about being firm and maybe tough love, we're talking about holding boundaries. If you set a boundary and you don't hold it, then none of your boundaries are going to mean anything. Which kind of means, like, if you set a rule or an expectation and you're like, oh, well, this time we'll let it go. Or you forget and you just forget. It's just out. Then whatever you say, your teenage girl is not going to take it very seriously, because in the past, there was no consequence or there was no follow-up. So setting a boundary, making a rule, setting some kind of expectation, you have to be ready to hold to it, back it up, and have consequences and follow through with the consequences. So let's say you tell your teenage daughter, okay, if you're late for your 10 o'clock curfew, you're going to be grounded for the following weekend, or for the weekend. I don't know, whatever. Let's say for the weekend. And then the weekend comes and you forget, and your teenage daughter gets to stay out till, like, I don't know, 10. She comes home at 10 because that's her curfew. But she still got to go out. So does that mean that she has gotten a consequence for making a bad choice? Or does it mean that she slid under the radar, and as long as you're not paying attention, she could kind of do whatever she wants? Being the good guy and saying, let's say you decide, okay, you're going to be grounded for a week, starting from Sunday to Sunday, or maybe it's Friday through the following Sunday. And during the week, your daughter's doing great. She's getting all her homework done. She's coming home. She's helping to clean up in the kitchen. She's doing all her chores. Everything is going really great. And then Friday rolls around and she says, you know, Mom, things have been going really great. Is it okay if I could go out today because I've learned my lesson? Being the good guy means that you're like, you know what? You've proven yourself. Go ahead and go. But then that's not the full punishment. Like, the consequence you said was to be grounded from Friday of this week, and then there's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So if you don't hold that, your teenage girl, accountable for that, then any consequence you give, or there really isn't any consequence, because they can negotiate their way out of whatever it is. So being the good guy may feel good in the moment, but you're not really helping your teenage girl to understand about consequences and understand that what you say kind of goes. The other thing to keep in mind is that when you are setting consequences, please, like, try to be realistic. If you're getting ready to go on a trip to Maui and the kid, your daughter, is being just a total pill, and you're like, oh, and then you get really angry and you say, you know what? We're not going to Hawaii. I'm canceling that. If you don't turn this around, we're not going. What's the chance of that actually happening? You've bought tickets, you've spent money, it's probably non-refundable. Are you really going to cancel that trip to Hawaii? Then please don't put that out on the table, because that's just like saying being grounded is not grounded. Use something realistic and something that you can stick to, that you can remember. Set a timer or a reminder in your calendar so you don't forget. It's really important to be firm, not harsh, and consistent. So far in talking about parenting a teenage girl, we talked about what it's like to be a teenage girl, hormones, what's going on in the brain with neurological development. There's physical development. There's all of the influence from television, movies, commercials, all that kind of social media. There's also just kind of feeling a lot and not really knowing what to do with it. And then understanding that female brain is very relational. Then we talked more about what would happen if we don't intervene and really try to parent our teenage girls. And we talked about, well, there's the fear of eating disorder, substance abuse, self-harm, anxiety, and depression. What can you do to help? Communicate clearly. Ask open-ended questions. Use reflective listening. Use I statements. Be firm, but not harsh or mean. Be consistent. The last thing I want to talk about is respect. So just in case there are people that are joining us late in this presentation, my name's Tracy Bevington, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm the owner and founder of Pacific Marriage and Family Therapy Network, which is a group psychotherapy practice with 15 clinicians and offices in Sherman Oaks, Manhattan Beach, and Santa Monica. If you would have any questions, please list them in the question comment area. If you are joining us for the first time, please note that you're joining us and where you're joining us from. If you'd like to join our newsletter or would you like to get in contact with us, there is a link at the top of the page. All right, so my last point in Help I'm Parenting a Teenage Girl is respect. Respect is something that once you lose it, it's hard to get back. It's like trust. It needs to be built up over time, and it's more about like behavior than it is just like saying, oh, I trust you, or oh, I respect you. It's about how you do it, not about what you say. So once you lose it, it's hard to get back. When you're trying to reestablish respect, it's important to have a conversation. And again, we're talking about a conversation. One person talks, one person listens, or maybe it's mom and dad together, talking, listening. It's not lecture. It's a conversation. And set expectations, realistic expectations. And then you got to stick to them. Just like with setting boundaries and setting consequences. You've got to be able to follow up. If you don't have follow-up, then they have no reason to do it because no one's going to be watching or caring anyway. So when you're having this conversation, think about the behaviors that you want to see in your daughter. And maybe some of the things you don't want to see. But the more positive you can make it, usually the better. So when you're talking about respect, you might want to talk about using respectful language. I can't tell you how many families I interact with where the teenage girls often are cussing at their parent. They're just, It's really interesting. It's very disrespectful. So one thing that you can say is a no-go both ways is, in this household, we use appropriate language. Using, cursing at someone is not going to be tolerated. It's just, we want to be respectful, and we want to use appropriate words. Maybe something that's important is ignoring you, right? Ignoring someone is incredibly disrespectful. So maybe you ask to be acknowledged. In this family, we acknowledge each other. Even if you don't agree, we still acknowledge. So ignoring someone is not going to be okay. Then when you see it happening, you need to call it out as not okay, in a respectful, right, a firm and not harsh or mean way. Next, don't expect your daughter to be your best friend. This is kind of related to respect. Your child is your child. You can have a great relationship. I'm all for having a great relationship with your kids. However, it's not appropriate for you as a parent to be your daughter's best friend, whether it's mom or dad. You're not supposed to be best friends. You're the parent. There is always a clearly defined line about your relationship. Moms and dads and daughters, like I said, can have great relationships. But there's a difference when you're talking about being a best friend. If you think you're best friends with your daughter right now, it's probably an illusion. Most teenage girls want a best friend or feel comfortable with a best friend that is one of their peers. So you may have a really great relationship with your daughter, but it's just not okay to be a best friend, because there's certain things that moms and daughters it's not appropriate to do, that two friends as peers, it's completely appropriate to do. I can talk more about that maybe in another session. But respect the relationship between mother and daughter. Ask for the respect of being the mother or the father, not the best friend. It's a different kind of respect. Excuse me. So I hope that I've been helpful in any kind of way in helping you to parent your teenage girls. If you would like any other information, or maybe you'd like to set up a phone call or be seen as a client, please contact us. Either myself or any of the other 15 therapists in our group would be happy to help you parent your teenage girl. I said it many times already, but it is not easy. So in closing, I want to say, again, teenage girls are not easy to parent. It's kind of like holding them kind of like by the neck of their shirt and petting them on the head at the same time. It's like, listen to me, and it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Which is hard to do sometimes, actually a lot of the time. So be firm and loving. Be supportive, listen, and really try to understand them. And together, you're going to improve the relationship, and you're really going to help your daughter get through adolescence in the best possible way. So thank you again. Thank you very much for joining me today. Again, if you'd like additional information or would like to get in contact with us, the link is at the top of the page. And as a reminder, every Thursday at 1 o'clock Pacific, we have the Facebook Live sessions. And next week, we're going to be talking about another exciting psychology topic. So I'll see you next Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific. Thank you.